All right. Well, good morning. On a weekend when we remember those that have died fighting for our freedom, and even though it goes against some younger people's opinion, our freedom was paid for by at a cost, and it's still being paid for at a cost. And so there are men and women all over the world that are making sure that we can enjoy weekends like we get this weekend, because we live in a free nation, because they've made it happen for us. And so if you're here this morning and you have family members that have died in combat, just wave at me, or so we can acknowledge you this morning. But I'm just going to pray for our men and women around the nation that are serving. So, Father God, we thank you for today, God. We thank you for all of those men and women that have sacrificed the ability to just be home with their families, and their ability just to work a normal job, Lord God, that they put themselves in harm's way, Lord God, that we can continue to have the freedom that we have in our nation, the freedom to be able to preach your word, the freedom to be able to live in a free country. And so, God, we thank you for those men and women of service, Lord God, that you would continue to protect them and keep them safe, Lord God, that as they take care of us, Lord God, that you would continue to take care of their homes. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. All right, well, how's everyone doing this morning? Yeah, all right. Well, my wife's not shooting this weekend. She's just went down to go watch and support her dad preaching, which, by the way, it's pretty a cool deal that they request our pastor to come and preach for them. And I'm going to tell you, if you're going to preach cowboy church, I don't know a better preaching, rootin' tootin' cowboy than we have for senior pastor. And so I told him I'd cover for him, and so he's gone, but my wife went and to support them too, and I'm making it. I'm okay. This morning I went through 4 shirts. All of them had stains on. I just went with the last one. My sermon notes are printed on yellow paper. I'm like, I can do this. Just get through the day. She'll be back tonight. It's okay. And so, baby, if you're watching it on Facebook Live, baby, come back. And so, but I'm okay. I'm doing all right. And so my sermon is good. Even though it's on yellow paper, it's okay. And so this morning we're talking about the fruits of the Spirit. And so Pastor is having me continue on from his series that he's doing right now. And so we're going to look this morning at Matthew chapter 7 before we dive into the fruits of the Spirit verse that Pastor's been using. And so Matthew chapter 7 and verse 16 through 20. And now I'm going to switch back and forth from the New King James and the NLT. I'm in the middle of going through the whole NLT Bible and putting my notes in that. And so far, I really like that Bible. And so if you're wondering, sometimes my verse might match up with your Bible, and sometimes it doesn't. Those are the 2 versions I'm going to preach from this morning. So, all right, in Matthew chapter 7, verse 16, it says, "You can identify them by their fruit." That is, by the way they act. Everyone say, the way they act. By the way they act. Can you pick grapes from a thorn bush or figs from thistles? A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown in the fire. Yes, as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. You can identify people by their actions. See, unfortunately, most Christians' lives don't look any different than the rest of the world, which is kind of odd, seeing as the whole definition of being a Christian is to be Christ-like. It's like those bracelets, WWJD. Remember those? You guys just gave away how old you are. And so, when I was growing up, we had those bracelets, and some of you kids in the room, you think the spinners are cool. No, the bracelets were 10 times more popular than the spinners, and you would wear them, and it would be like, well, what would Jesus do? And it would remind you to live in a way that people would see you different than the rest of the world. And so, this morning we're going to look at that in Matthew chapter 5. If you flip back two chapters, in Matthew chapter 5:16. It says, in the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to what? See. Let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. This morning I want to explain to you something that, to be Christ-like is meant to be a visible trait that people will notice, and it will draw them closer to God. In 1 Peter 2:12, it says, be careful to live properly. Everyone say properly. To live properly. It says, be careful to live properly among your unbelieving neighbors. Then, even if they accuse you of doing wrong, they will see your honorable behavior, and they will give honor to God when He judges the world. See, guys, this morning, when we talk about the fruit of goodness, this is not doing nice things for people. That was last week. That was kindness. We are talking about something different. You can identify people by their actions. Do people know you're a Christian even if you've never told them? Every job I've ever had that wasn't working at a church, within a month of working there, people would begin to apologize to me for their bad behavior, even though I never told them I go to church and I never told them I was Christian. They just noticed that I was different, so they would apologize for the things they said. They would apologize for oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were there. Okay? And don't do it. And so point number one this morning, if you're taking notes, is the fruit of goodness is a visibly noticeable trait. The fruit of goodness is a visibly noticeable trait. So what is this goodness that Pastor Rick wants us to learn about this morning? The verse that Pastor's been using is Galatians 5:22, and it says, the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, which is different, and goodness. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to teach on what goodness is, I might want to know what it is myself. The Greek word for goodness here is only used 3 other times in the New Testament. One of the times is another verse that's also referring to the fruit of the Spirit. So there's only 2 other verses in the New Testament that use the same Greek word for goodness. And the first one is this. In 2 Thessalonians 1:11, therefore we also pray always for you, that our God would count you worthy of His calling and fulfill all the good pleasure of whose goodness? Whose goodness? His. So if we're going to have a fruit in our lives that produce goodness, it's going to be whose goodness? His. It's going to be God's. And so, human, like in human terms, good can mean anything. Oh, how was it? It was good, not great. Or would you like some more of this? No, I'm good. Do you see how in the English language that we use the same word for like 30 things? And it's all how you say it. Do I look fat in this? No. Do I look fat in this? No. 2 different things, okay? I've only been married a year and a half. I already know no. Okay? If you guys had not figured this out yet, all you guys have been married much longer than me. It's how we say it. But I said no. I know you said no, but no could mean 30 things. Do I look fat in this? No. Okay? It's like a reaction. She's not asking you to think about it. See, God's goodness, and in this verse, the Greek language, it it's very precise about what it means. Instead of having one word that describes 30 things, they'll have 30 words to describe the one word we use. Because they want to be very precise on what they are saying. And so it's His goodness. And the thing is, with God's goodness is something that's so amazing that we can't even begin to fathom the abundance of the life He intended for you to have. See, if our fruit, we're supposed to have fruit that reflects God's goodness, we might want to know what that is. So when I think about how you can look at God, I think there's two ways you can look at God. One is who He is, His character, and His actions. And the other one would be His actions towards us. So the first thing I want to look at this morning is who He is. So the verse we looked at said, "Therefore, we also pray always for you that God would count you worthy of the calling." Now, to give you an example of this, all right? This summer, I'm doing an all-night party lock-in, but I'm only doing it for the high school because they can act like normal human beings. I'm not doing one for the middle school. Why? Because the high school's behavior has earned the right to get the blessings of being in my high school youth group. The middle school, some of them are still learning how to act like a human being. Some of them I'm like, look, I know you've never been to church before, but you've been in public, right? That we would be worthy of what He's calling us to do. Well, what is God calling us? In 1 Peter 2:8 says, they stumble because they do not obey God's word. And so they meet the fate that was planned for them. But you are not like that, for you are a chosen people, you are a royal priest, a holy nation, God's very own possession. As a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for He called you out of darkness and into His wonderful light. What is the thing that He's calling us? He's calling us out of the darkness and into His wonderful light. I want to tell you this morning that if you're stumbling in life, it's because we don't obey God's word. His word in which He's calling us out of darkness to live a life that reflects His goodness. You can't show people the goodness of God if you're not living in it yourself. Gil cannot show you how awesome it is to be a Broncos fan when all he owns is Raiders stuff. I got more for you. Gil's picked on me all week, so if I am relentless to Gil, I told him that I was coming for him because I'm preaching Sunday. And I'm a pastor, I don't lie. I got the Jeep in the parking lot, buddy. So, He calls us out of the dark. See, guys, listen, darkness and light can't be in the same place at the same time. It can't. When you flip the light switch, there's either light in the room, or you flip it off, and there's darkness in the room. Lightness and dark cannot be in the same place at the same time. There's a joke in the Carlson family where somebody will go take a poop. And then when they're done, they'll say, "Hey, Isaac, somebody wrote your name in the bathroom." Because they want you to go in and smell it. "I'm not going in there, it stinks." The other week, Sam got his dad real good. He goes pooping and he comes out and he says, hey, Dad, is the toilet supposed to be leaking? And they just got into their new house. So Pastor Rick runs into the bathroom and Sam shuts the door, pulls the door shut on him. Gotcha! And so, I don't fall for it because I don't want to go in there. I already know it stinks. Well, I don't know why I'm not receiving God's blessings because your life stinks. Darkness and light can't be in the same place at the same time. And God's like, I'm not going in there. It stinks. If you insist on staying in the darkness, then you can't partake in the wonderful light. You can't. You can't have one foot in the darkness and one in the light because you need both feet to move forward. Otherwise, you just seem, I don't know why in life, I just seem to go in a circle. I never go anywhere. My life never moves forward. Yeah, because you're moving forward with one foot in the light and one in the darkness, thinking that you're going to go somewhere. You know, the Bible says that we're meant to be fishers of men. Any fishermen in here this morning? Oh, all right. First service, none. They were all fishing. They didn't come to church. When you fish, you don't get the chemicals out and pour it in the water and change the chemical structure of the water so that you can get in and swim among the fish and just eat sushi as you please. It doesn't work that way. What do? You pull the fish out of the water so that then you can fry them up. Well, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be fishers of men. We're supposed to be fishers of men. See, we can't be fishers of men if we're gonna join them in the darkness. We have to pull them out of the darkness and into His light. If we're going to be fishers of men, we have to pull people from the darkness, not join them in it. We're meant to be different. We're meant to have the fruit of goodness in our life that is noticeably visible. There's just something about you. You are different. Philippians 2:15 says, that you may become blameless and harmless, children of God without fault, in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation. In the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. We're meant to live in such a way that people will see the light in the dark and answer the call to leave it themselves. It's not an act of kindness. That's what Pastor talked on last week. Goodness is the way we live. Ian Bounds put it this way. The success of a church is not measured by its size. The success of a church is measured by the holiness of the people. That's how you know you got a good church. When lives are beginning to change and people begin to look different than everybody else out there. By being lights, we're pulling people from the darkness, and God's calling us to be fishers of men, and God's goodness in our life will be the bait. There's some Christians out there, I don't want what you have. Your life stinks. I'm not going in there. And God's telling us, I want your life to visibly be noticeable, that it would be the bait that pulls people out of the darkness. Point number 2, if you're taking notes, is this. The fruit of goodness is a life that separates from sin. The fruit of goodness is a life that separates from sin. Matthew 5:14 says this, you are the light of the world, like a city on top of a hill that cannot be hidden. Now, I'm all city. I'd rather live in the city with not well water and not crazy amounts of wind. Okay? But my wife's the opposite. She's all about the country. And when you're out like where Ken and Candace live, it's dark out there. Sometimes I got to use my phone to like make sure I'm on the path to get to the car. So dark at night. When you live outside the city, you can see the lights. You may not be sharing in the benefit of having the lights, but you can see them. When I first moved here, I'd always be scared I'd get lost, so I'd always look for the red dots at night. You know those towers out there? And I knew I was getting close to home. Until one day I figured out that there was 2 different sets, and I was way off. So you can see the light, but you may not be partaking in the benefits of the light, but you can see it. And so the first aspect of the fruit of goodness is not what we do for others, but just living a noticeably different life that makes people want the goodness that you have. That's the fruit of goodness. The second aspect of fruit is how we treat others. I'm not talking about kind acts, but there's only the other verse. So there's 2 verses in the Bible that use the same Greek word for goodness. And this is the second one, Romans 15:14. Now I myself am confident concerning you, my brethren, that you also are full of goodness. I'm going to pause there for 1 second. It's not on, I don't have it in the PowerPoint, but in Matthew 6:22, it says that the eye is the lamp of the body. And it says if what you see is light, then you have light in you. For what you see is darkness, you have darkness in you. And at the end it says, how great, if what you have in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? So here's what I want to tell you. We fill up on something. And we will either fill up on what God had for us, or we will fill up on what everything else the world says is okay. So whether you like it or not, you're full of something. Go to the person next to you and say, I knew you were full of it. So it says you are full of goodness, filled with all knowledge. This is where if I could make something happen in this generation, I would. Is just being full of knowledge. We want to change our world, but we don't know nothing about the Bible. Oh, well, we'll come to my church. Like Pastor Isaac, he preaches pretty good. The Bible tells us, number one, our lives will be full of goodness, and we're supposed to be full of the knowledge of God. And if we get to that place, it says, able also to admonish one another. And that word means to caution, counsel, and warn. God's word literally says that our lives are to be full of goodness so that we can caution and warn those that are in darkness. Something that is extremely unpopular today. If you morally disagree, then you're intolerant. No. I love you enough to tell you the truth that you're wrong. What are you doing? And the Bible says when you fill up on his goodness and you fill up on his knowledge, that you will be able to warn those in the darkness and call them back. Like, come on, let's go. Come over here. You don't want to go that way. And unfortunately, there's churches all over America that just celebrate people in their sin. Well, we're a loving church. Well, and I guess we're not, because I love you enough to tell you that you're wrong. Did not love you enough to let you keep going in a direction that leads you away from God. My biggest fear is that when I stand before God, all the thousands of kids that I've preached to, not one of them is behind me. Romans 10 says this, verse 14. But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him. And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? And how will anyone go and tell them without being sent? That is why Scripture says, how beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring good news. Not feel-good news. A lot of people are like, oh, I love my church. I feel so great after going and hearing the sermon. Okay, well, has your life changed at all? No. Then they didn't tell you the good news. They just gave you feel-good news. The fruit of goodness, point number 3, the fruit of goodness is, the fruit of goodness is to bring the good news. The fruit of goodness is to bring the good news. But the verse before said to be full of goodness so that we can advise and warn those in darkness. I want to tell you this morning that you cannot tell people what Jesus is doing in your life if he's not doing anything. When something good happens, you tell all your friends. Chad made me an AR. I literally showed all my buddies. Like, hey, check it out! Like running around the house like we're SWAT. Like, I was so excited. Look what I got. This is cool. If God's not doing anything in your life, then why would you be excited to tell them about God? You only tell people about the things you're excited about. Oh man, you should see what's going on here. The only time we tell people good stuff is when we're excited about it because we're experiencing it. You can't tell people about Jesus if he hasn't done anything for you. So what is that good news? This morning, I just want to tell you, we can keep pretending that the fruit of goodness is basically the same thing as kindness. Oh, just love everybody. Or we can come to the honest truth that the word for goodness in that verse means to see that goodness is separating from sin. That goodness is telling people about what God is doing in your life because he's doing something in your life. That's producing the fruit. See, many people will never leave the darkness because they never met anyone that were so filled with goodness that they just had to tell them the good news. I'm going to say that again. Most people will never leave the darkness because they never encounter anybody that's so full of goodness that they just had to tell them the good news. If you are not excited to tell your family, if you're not excited to tell your friends, it's time you begin to fill up on God's goodness so that it begins to just pour out of you and you can't wait to tell people. If we're not in that place, then it's time to top off the tank. Because the Bible tells us to be full of goodness so that we can tell the good news. The good news that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. The good news that we no longer need to be bound by sin and shame. The good news that we're free from the curse of the law. The good news that we can walk in the light and have life and have it more abundantly. The good news that we can be healed and free of addiction, that the enemy no longer has a hold on them, that we can tell them the good news that we're saved by grace and it's not nothing we do, but it's a gift of God, that we can tell them the good news that Jesus died for them, that is calling them out of darkness and into his marvelous light, that we can tell them the good news that his burden is light, that we can tell them the good news that when you have a life in his marvelous light, it gives you purpose and hope in your life. The good news that he's not done with you yet. The good news that he knows everything about you. The good news that you're not alone. The good news that says, look how good my life is. And what God is doing for me, he will do for you. That's the fruit. Woo! I can't wait to tell the good news. Why? Because God's doing something in my life. We can't bring the good news if our life is not producing the fruit of goodness. We can't. And I'm here this morning to tell you that everything you hear on media and everything you see in the world is wrong. We are called to be different. We are called to not be a part of this world. We are called to live life differently. Now this is where I noticed that I'm getting older. I hate my cell phone. All the young people love their cell phone. I hate it. I literally have to make myself answer the phone. And in fact, I always forget to turn the ringer off. So that I'm always in like church and my ringer goes off. Like somebody calls me. So now my ringer's permanently on silent and I'm totally okay with it because I'll just call people back when I miss a call. I have to choose to answer the phone. So half the time I don't even have my phone on me. I just check it every couple hours, make sure that somebody didn't call me and I got to call them back. But you have to choose to answer. And God is calling us to make a change in our life. We just did a series in youth group on spiritual warfare. And we identified the things in our life that need to change so that we can experience the freedom in God. But you have to choose to answer the call. You have to choose to allow God to examine your heart and show you the things that you need to change. It goes back to the first thing we said. You can identify people by their fruit. And I want to ask you this morning, if you're not producing goodness in your life, are you ready to answer the call to leave the darkness and step into the light? I'm telling you, I have seen and experienced so much heartache in my life, but it never really knocked me off my path because I was living a life of goodness. And my joy doesn't come from the things that happen to me. My joy comes from the person I live for. I know people want to march in the streets and block the highways because life should be all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not. But I want to tell you that when you step into His marvelous light, your strength comes from Him. And you will find that you can endure more than you ever thought you could endure. You will go further than you ever thought you could go. You can experience freedom you never thought you would have. All because you chose to answer the call. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this morning. God, we thank you for the chance to come and dive into your word. But God, if we're here this morning and we say, I haven't answered the call, God, I thank you that it's not too late. That there's nothing we could ever say, there's nothing we could ever do that would change the way you feel about us. There's nothing we could ever say and nothing we could ever do that would change the course of the purpose you have in our life. And so this morning, God, no matter how young or old we are, we can choose to answer the call. And so God, right now, I pray for everyone in this room, Lord God, that you would give us the boldness to step into that light, that you'd give us the boldness to separate from the things in our life that are holding us back, that you'd give us the boldness to share the truth, Lord God. And Lord God, that our lives would begin to produce the fruit of goodness. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. So real quick before we go, we've got vision offering that I need to make sure I don't forget to take up. But the ushers, if you want to go ahead, you can go ahead and pass the buckets. The offering goes to keep the lights on at the amp. We have between 100 and 130 kids that come a week. And this Wednesday, there was a kid that got filled with the Holy Spirit. There was like 5 or 6 kids that experienced freedom from the hold of the enemy in their life, and you could feel it in the room. You could feel the freedom in the room. It was crazy. Maddie was mad at me for closing service because the presence of God was so heavy in the room, but I was like, parents are waiting. And you don't have to come and serve at the amp, but you can be a part of the harvest by supporting what we're doing, by keeping the lights on, so we can continue to teach the word to the kids. So Father God, we thank you for this offering, Lord God. We thank you, God. Lord God, I pray that you would multiply the money that comes in, Lord God. Lord God, as we take care of your house, Lord God, that you would take care of ours. And so, Lord God, I thank you that your word is true. Lord God, I pray that we would continue to further the kingdom of God in the lives of those kids. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. While those are being passed, I just want to tell you, we're talking about goodness. I have a friend that's going through a lot, and I've been brutally honest with him, and everyone's always afraid, well, I can't offend them. No, I've been brutally honest with them. And he still calls me every week. And he told me, he's like, well, I'm scared because what if I go through the next 40 years alone then? What if I go through the next 40 years with nothing? And I said, the next 40 years is tiny compared to eternity without God. I would rather go through the next 40 years alone and be with God than do whatever I want and miss out on eternity. And guys, I want to encourage you that when we begin to share the good news, I'd rather my family members be mad at me and I offend my friends than not have them with me when I stand before God. So I want to encourage you in boldness, and I'm going to pray for you real quick so we can leave. So Father God, I thank you for this morning. Lord God, that we would just be a church that is healthy, not because of the size of the church, but because of the holiness of the people. So that our lives would begin to change and produce a good fruit. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. If you guys need prayer for anything, we'll be up at the front. I just really appreciate you guys being here. A lot of times when Pastor announces he's going to be gone, people don't show up, and so I appreciate you guys showing up. That makes me feel good, so thank you. And you guys have a good week.